All right, let's talk about one of the most intense tech competitions happening on the planet right now. It's a government-backed, high-stakes race to define a nation's entire future in artificial intelligence. And this setup here is just incredibly dramatic because the stakes, they could not be higher. This isn't just about building another cool app. For these 5 elite teams, this is a national mission. The prize is technological sovereignty. And the price of failure? Getting cut from the program. Completely. But that makes you wonder, right? Why go through all this trouble? Why pour hundreds of millions of dollars into a project like this when you could just use the powerful AI models that global tech giants are already offering? Well, the answer comes down to this really critical concept: sovereign AI. See, if you rely on outside companies for something this important, you're making yourself vulnerable. Imagine a sudden price hike, a surprise change in policy, or worse, a massive data leak. It could literally cripple your key industries overnight. For South Korea, this isn't just about pride. It's about national security. It's about economic survival. So who did the government actually pick for this massive undertaking? They started with a pool of 15 companies and whittled it down to 5 elite groups. Each one of them is an absolute powerhouse. And here's the cool part: each one is bringing a totally different game plan to the competition. And this is where it gets fascinating. You've got these completely diverse strategies clashing. SK Telecom is betting it all on sheer size. LG is all about efficiency, making AI powerful but accessible. Naver? They're building an AI that has multiple senses. Then there's NCAI, creating a specialist just for heavy industry. And finally, you have Upstage, a startup, leading the charge on open source. 5 teams, 5 completely different philosophies. So you see, this is so much more than a race to build the best AI. It's really a fundamental battle of ideas, a test to see which approach, which philosophy is actually going to come out on top. So let's look at the first big rivalry. In one corner, you have SK Telecom, basically going for broke with a strategy of overwhelming size. They believe bigger is just better. And in the other corner, you have Naver Cloud, which is betting on something more holistic, more human. Get a load of this number. SK Telecom's model is being built with 519 billion parameters. You can think of parameters as the individual neurons in the AI's brain. A number that big is a scale that puts them in a very exclusive club, with just a handful of nations like the US, China, and France. It's a huge bet on just raw, overwhelming power. But Naver is playing a totally different game. Instead of just going bigger, they built what they call a native omnimodal AI. Basically, that means it's one single brain that learns to see, hear, and read all at the same time from the ground up. And the proof is in the pudding. This model scored a grade 1 on South Korea's national college entrance exam, which is notoriously brutal. Okay, so that brings us to another key matchup: efficiency versus specialization. You've got LG trying to build a world-class AI that's also super efficient, and then there's NCAI, which is laser-focused on building a specialist for the country's most important industries. For LG, the keyword here is accessibility. Their model manages a staggering 70% reduction in the memory and computing power it needs. Now, what that really means is that top-tier AI can suddenly run on smaller, cheaper hardware. That's a total game changer for getting this technology into everyone's hands. Meanwhile, NCAI is not trying to be a jack of all trades. Their model is a specialist, a surgeon. It's being built from day one to power things like smart factories, to help with national defense, to optimize logistics, and even to help create K-culture content. This is the workhorse AI for the industrial backbone of the country. And that brings us to our 5th contender, the underdog, Upstage. They're the only startup in this whole competition, and this quote from their CEO Kim Sung-hoon, it just says it all. This national project is like a slingshot for them, letting a smaller company punch way, way above its weight and build something that would have been impossible on their own. So you've got 5 teams with 5 wildly different strategies. How on earth do you pick a winner? Well, let me tell you, this is not a friendly science fair. The government has designed what I can only describe as a brutal, multi-year gauntlet designed to forge the best AI possible. The process is absolutely relentless. They start with 5 teams. After the very first evaluation, boom, one team is cut, gone. And it doesn't stop there. Every 6 months, there's another review, and they keep narrowing the field until only 2 teams are left standing in 2027. It is pure survival of the fittest. And the performance bar to even stay in the race? It's just ridiculously high. Each team's model has to perform at least 95% as well as the best AI models released anywhere in the world in the last 6 months. Just think about that. They're constantly chasing this moving global target. So why all this insane pressure? Well, because the goal here was never just about building a good enough AI for Korea. No, the real finish line, the real prize is on the global stage. This whole thing is about creating a world beater. And you don't have to take my word for it. This quote from Bae Kyung-hoon, the Minister of Science and ICT, frames the ambition perfectly. He says this race will be the decisive force that helps South Korea leap forward as an AI powerhouse. They see this as the key to completely transforming their entire economy and society. The end goal is crystal clear. They don't just want to use AI, they want to build it. They want a seat at the big table, right there with the US and China, as one of the top 3 global AI powerhouses, what they're calling an AI G3. They want to be nothing less than the AI capital of Asia. Which leaves us with one final critical question. The world of AI moves at a lightning pace, right? It's driven by fierce, cutthroat competition in the private sector. So can a state-sponsored national race like this really keep up? Can it produce a world-leading AI? That is the billion-dollar question that this whole project is trying to answer.